Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the greatest podcast in the world, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. You know who this is. It's the truth, the dad bod god, the ball, the beard, the beautiful Piers Austin. And today, we got a special one for you guys, man. Seriously, we got my good friend, my buddy, and someone I always have a great conversation with, no matter where we are, and no matter how long it's been since we caught up. So I'm excited to have my guest on. It is the one, the only Jay Sorbet, one of my favorite people in the entire world. And I know I say that about every guest, but this time I actually mean it. But before we get into that conversation, I do want to take a quick second to thank our sponsor for tonight's episode, and that is healthvape.com. Now, listen, all you filthy smokers and filthy cloud chucking vape people, go and check out healthvape.com. This is your healthy vaping alternative, all right? Listen to me. All of their products, no nicotine, no addictive or harmful chemicals, and they're vitamin infused. So they will help restore your energy while giving you a vital boost you need to get through your day. So what are you waiting for? Put your health first. Go to healthvape.com. Use that promo code MWAPOD on your final purchase and save 10%. So, what are you waiting for? Head over to healthvape.com now. Also, wherever you are tuning in, if you are tuning in on YouTube, please like, share, subscribe, hit the bell to stay notified. Tap that little red button and tap in, because you know we bring you the best interviews and conversations from professional wrestling, mixed martial arts, boxing, Muay Thai, comedy, music, you name it, social media influencers. We're bringing it to you all. That's why this is the greatest podcast in the world today. Also, if you're listening on a podcast platform, please give us a 5-star review. It helps with our analytics. It helps us bring more amazing conversations to more amazing fucking people like yourselves. Sorry, I can't swear because I know Jay Sorbet is a good Christian boy, so I have to watch my mouth tonight. But please click that link, give us that 5-star review, and I appreciate that. But before anything else, I think I'm done with the intro. Now let's get into my conversation with the one, the only, the Scooper Man, Jay Sorbet, baby. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Shooting the Shit Uncensored. This is the truth, Piers Austin, and once again, I am here with one of my favorite people in the entire world, and I do say that about every guest, but this time I actually meant it. Jay Sorbet, welcome back to the podcast, brother.
Thanks for having me back, and thank you for that very Tony Chimmel-esque introduction there.
Hey, man, I think I actually did that the last time I announced you just for
You
fun.
did that at Menai.
Yeah. Hey, man, why not? It just sounded right, so, just roll with it.
Yeah, adds the flavor to the announcing.
100%, man. But dude, it's been 2 years since we had you on the podcast last?
Yeah, funnily enough, the last time you had me on was straight after a Menai event as well, and I think that was either just after, I think it was just after the lockdowns had finished, and we had our first show back, and we had to wear face masks in the ring.
That's right. That was crazy. I was the only one that didn't have to wear a mask at that show because I was the announcer.
Bro, I think if I had to wear a face mask in there with Scotty this past Friday, I would have passed out. Like,
dude, that match was really, really fun to call. Like you and Scotty Magnum definitely to me stole the show on Friday.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it was cool watching it back and hearing you guys, because like we don't always get live commentary. Like obviously for the streams, it's pretty standard. But I've worked so many shows that like you don't always get used to it, and then you hear it. It does add an element, like as long as it's decent commentary, which in this case it was. But yeah, it does add an extra element to the show, I think.
I definitely think it does. Especially from the streaming aspect of it, and from a commentator trying to get more bookings. I definitely think it adds a lot of value. Hit me up, by the way, link in bio. But for yourself, man, like a lot's changed in a couple of years, man. Like since we sort of like first had you on the podcast, now you're actually, you're sort of like, I think you've stepped up your game, and I'm going to put you over here, and you're probably not going to like me to do it because I know you're a shy guy, but I think you're one of the best wrestlers in New South Wales.
Thanks,
Point blank. I think you are, without a doubt, one of the best performers in New South Wales. And now you are starting to train people at AWS's school and rock and roll school. How has that transition been for you stepping into becoming a coach?
Honestly, at first, there was aspects of it that were very intimidating, of like the idea of, okay, now I've got this class of people, whether it be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it was a bit like intimidating at first. It's like, okay, these people are actually here to learn something from me, so I've got to teach them something. I could just roll around with them for a couple of hours in the ring, which would be great, but I want to bring more.
Yeah.
And I think my coaching style is, I base it off the people that I've learnt from, whether it's like Hunter Hayes or Madison, Robbie Eagles, Mick Moretti, even like some of the stuff that I did with Mike Quackenbush over in Shikara. Like I try and bring some of those aspects and yeah, teach that kind of stuff. And yeah, from what I've noticed so far, people have said that they're enjoying the classes, which is great for me. Like it's been a massive confidence booster, I think, for me too. Like just being able to step up to that level. Like by no means do I think I'm, the best trainer in the country or anything. I've only been doing it for like a couple of months, but I'm enjoying it so far. And yeah, I definitely think I have something to offer through the last 8 years I've been wrestling.
8 years, man, is a long time. Like when you started when you were what, 19?
Yeah, 19 or 20. So yeah, I think 2015 I started training, started having matches in like 2016.
Yeah, right. So, with the coaching side of things as well, like, how did that opportunity first present itself to you?
So the AWS gig kind of just came up because we had like an end of year Christmas party, and Tyson Gibbs was just telling the boys, bring your gear, we'll have a roll around kind of thing. And there was a couple of like newer guys there. And I just got in and started rolling around, and I just ended up showing a thing here and a thing there. And I think he saw that and thought, that I could maybe teach him different aspects that, would differ from what he was teaching and what Kasai was teaching on the Mondays. And I think that's valuable, having a few different minds in the school, but they can all teach different aspects and different things. I'm sure you'd attest to like having him on the show, like, Kasai and Gibbs and even myself, we have different sort of mindsets, but we're all trying to get to the same goal, I think.
100%. And I think as well, it's a different, you're a different personality to Gibbs and Kasai, and they're different personalities again from each other. So, again, something I've always said, no matter what you're sort of training in, if you've got a coach, like to be a successful coach, I feel like, or to have a successful team or whatever you want to call it, you have to be able to connect with the people that you're training or the people that you're mentoring and stuff like that. So sometimes people's training skills, people might resonate more towards you and they connect more with you and they get more out of training with you than they may with Kasai or Gibbs. And there may be people that may get more out of training with Gibbs than they would with you. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole, I think that adds that different element to it as well.
Yeah, for sure. And like I'll shout out Rob as well. He's come down and helped out, and Tristan Slade as well. He quite regularly comes down and will help me out. He'll cover nights, and he's basically like another coach as well. You know, like the guy's got so much experience and has a lot to offer as well. So yeah, we got some good minds down there. And then as far as rock and roll, like Hunter's been actually asking me for a while to run the school, but like living up in the Shire, it was just more of like the travel, getting down to Wollongong like every night.
Yeah.
But I've actually started working down there now, so I'm down there for like the first half of the week. So it's basically a no-brainer because I love it and I love being around the guys and just helping out. So
And it's
yeah,
a good
that's kind of
crew
how
down
that landed.
and it's a good crew down there as well.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, they're great people, and that's kind of what when I was talking to Hayes, it was like it's funny. It's like that whole crew, wherever they go, it's like they are all just like the nicest, like they're just nice, cool people. You know what I mean? Like, and it's rare that you see like a bunch of people that everyone that comes out of there is just genuinely a nice person.
And I think that's a testament to like Hunter as a person. Like that's the energy that he brings. That positive energy that he brings, and as part of getting through the school, like he'll also teach team culture and how to work as a team. Not just in the ring but outside as well. Whether it's ring crew, the importance of getting there and working together and being a part of it. And if you're not pulling your weight and if you've got a bad attitude, like sooner or later, you're probably not going to be around.
Yeah. Well, people don't want to be around assholes. You know what I mean? Excuse my language, but people don't. You know what I mean? But if we work shows together and I was always like, like dragging my knuckles and complaining and bitching and stuff like that, we probably wouldn't be friends because it's like, why would anyone want to be around that? You know what I mean?
And
so
yeah, sorry. And like at the end of the day, like you can't force anyone to rock up and do stuff. It's on them, like students wise, it's on them to make the commitment and put in the effort they want to put in,
Yeah.
Like I know me, like as a coach, I'm not going to chase people 100 miles, like, I might say, hey, I haven't seen you around much, everything all good. But, if they don't want to come, like I understand people got other commitments, other priorities.
Sure.
Wrestling may not be that person's particular priority. And for someone else, it might, and they might come every week and they'll more than likely progress further than the people who are,
yeah,
not putting as much effort in.
Well, that's the thing. People have different priorities as well, and that's one thing I over the years couldn't realize. Whereas, like sometimes I'd be like, "Well, this is such a priority for me. Why isn't it a priority for you?" And that's where it's like, and I think like for me, that was one of the things that it took me the longest time to really understand. I went, oh, okay. So just because this is important to me doesn't necessarily mean this is important to Jay. And I'm using you as an example because you're here.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure. And I think like Vinny was actually one of the people early on who I chatted to, and he was, he's always had the mindset of like, he loves wrestling, but it's not absolutely everything to him, right? Like he's got his family, he's got his kids, and I think at the end of the day, they come first before everything else. Like, and at the time when I was younger, I didn't necessarily understand that the same because I was, a single guy. I was, 19, 20 years old, and it was like the wrestling dream. That was it.
Yeah.
But like, through going through the business for a couple of years and like meeting different people, you do realize, like other people got priorities and it's okay.
Yeah, and I think that comes with age and maturity and stuff like that, where you start to sort of realize that. But I understand, man. Like even like you not wanting to go and chasing people, bro, because like at the end of the day, you don't want to like you know what I mean? Like hey, because then it's like people will just go, oh fuck, it's Jay. You know what I mean? Like he's
exactly.
You know what I mean? Like it is what it is, bro. Like if people don't want to train, then they can't also then be upset and go, well, how come I didn't get booked? Or how come they get an opportunity? Because those people turn up to training 4 nights a week or 3 nights a week.
Yeah. And look, there's always exceptions. There'll be some people that some promoter likes more than others, and they'll
Mm.
A bit of, I don't know if I want to say luck, but like there's an element of hard work, and then there's a social aspect to it too. You know, I've seen a few people who have talent, but they just don't click with particular promoters for whatever reason, and that's why they won't work certain places. It's not necessarily that they're not good enough. It's just, it's just a matter of preference. You know, I think each promoter has their own preference of what they want on their show, who they.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think you're 100% right there, and that's where like I've had the conversation with other people going like the thing is like you could suggest things to a promoter and if they're a good business person they'll listen to the talent and then make a decision, but like for the most part if you're a person putting on a wrestling show, you're investing all this money to do it, then you obviously have a vision of what you want your product to be. And,
yeah,
and that's the thing where it's like you have to understand the person is like if you want to go and question said promoter, then you've got to go, all right, well, I don't think what they're doing is right. I think I can do it better. So I'll put my money where my mouth is and I'll start a Fed. You know what I mean? Like that,
yeah,
do that.
yeah. And I think, look, like there is, I think sometimes that type of mindset gets like, so what I'm trying to find, like people kind of like look down on people that do that, like, oh, I can't get booked anywhere, so I'm going to go start my own Fed and, buy a ring and do matches. But like, look, I think like as we were chatting a bit before, like a spot's a spot, and I don't have a problem with any promotion running as long as they're not hurting people on a regular basis. Accidents happen, but if people are getting hurt every match, then that's when I start to have a problem. Am I going to go and say anything? Probably not. But if I'm asked, then I'll share my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if people are getting hurt every show, and also I think I don't know, like if all promoters are in it to make money. I think some are in it just for the enjoyment, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But I think as workers, we kind of need to find where, like, what's this person's motivation for doing it? Are they just trying to have a good time and run their company, or are they actually trying to make money? Because I feel like sometimes it can get a bit mixed up, and it's like, well, oh, this guy's doing a really bad job. Where in his mind, he's like, oh, I'm doing a great job. I'm not really here to make money. I'm here to have fun, and I'm having fun. So in his mind, he's succeeding. But to the
Yeah.
grand population of wrestlers, from a distance, it can look like, oh, this guy is not succeeding. I guess it all just comes down to what you deem successful when it comes to a wrestling company or a promoter or even a talent.
Yeah. Let me ask you this, and I'm not going to say name names or Feds or anything like that, but let's, in a percentage wise, what percentage of Feds do you think are run by people just wanting to have fun compared to other Feds or promoters or bookers, whatever you want to call it, wanting to make money?
I think the majority probably want to make money.
Yeah.
Whether they do or not, I don't know, because I don't see the books at the end of the day. But I think majority of promoters want to make money, and there's a few out there that are wanting to either wrestle themselves and they can't find bookings elsewhere, or they want to have control of their own show and just do things their way, and they enjoy that, and the people that work for them enjoy it, and that's fine. But I think majority of promoters are probably in it to make money as well as the enjoyment of it.
Yeah. Do you feel like I think that's the thing, because I don't really think, and I've said this many times on this podcast, I don't think there's any promotion that's making large sums of money, to be honest, here in Australia.
No.
Like I don't think there's any company that's making massive amounts of money. So it comes down to the enjoyment. And also, like, I think, like, because I got asked this question, is like, what makes a successful company? and I said a company that doesn't lose money on a show. That to me would clear success, or a company that turns a profit after a show. That would be a successful promotion.
Yeah, business-wise, definitely. I would say business-wise, absolutely, that would be what determines success. I guess like where you can make the exceptions is if you take the, I guess, business aspect out of it, which I don't know if you should, to be honest, but some people do, and they're like, this is just a hobby for me, or this is just something I do to enjoy myself.
100%.
So
100%. And that's where I think that there's, probably different levels to it as well. You know what I mean? Like there's the companies that will treat it like a business and take it very professionally and have great production and great staging and all that sort of stuff. And then there'll be other feds that are just like, hey, we just want to run a show once a month and get together and, see how we draw. Yeah. And that's cool too, man, because at the end of the day, like, you know what I mean? It's wrestling. It's more work for performers to get on, and it's more reps to get as well for wrestlers and performers.
Yeah, and like I'm on the fence whether I think there's too many feds or there's not enough. Like to an extent, there are too many promotions, but in another way, there's not enough. Like, but I think that comes down to the fact that every promotion just runs weekends because that's the time where majority of the general public can make shows.
Yeah.
Like imagine if, and I don't think this will ever happen, but it might. Imagine if there was promotions that were running throughout the week and they were actually able to draw people. And instead of having these constant clashes, and I know business-wise this doesn't necessarily work. I'm just thinking hypothetically here.
Sure.
But imagine if companies were running, one was on Monday, one was on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, etc., and you had wrestling every day of the week. I don't think you could draw, hundreds of people all those nights. But for the boys, it would be great if you could work all these different days, because then, assuming we could actually make some money on it, we probably wouldn't have to work some of the day jobs that we do.
Yeah.
But I think, if we're looking at it realistically, you do want to run Friday nights, Saturday nights, and maybe a Sunday sometimes.
I think a Thursday night show could work.
Thursdays can work, yeah.
You got to think Thursday night football as well. Like people would go out for that.
Yeah, you got late night shopping as well, so people will be out and about sometimes.
Yeah, man. I definitely think like a Thursday night could work. But who knows? I think it would just be trial and error, to be honest. Yeah. Like it would just have to be trial and error, and which promoter and which promotion is going to go, you know what, fuck it, I'm going to give it a crack.
Yeah, and I think, the obvious reason it doesn't happen is a lot of promoters aren't willing to take that risk. And to be honest, I don't blame them because
it's money. Yeah. You could be potentially pissing money up against the wall.
Yeah. But in saying that, like World Series Wrestling run on Monday night, and they always seem to pack out the Penrith Panthers. So, yes, they have international talent, and that helps. But yeah, like I guess it can be done if we get Australian wrestling to a certain level. But yeah.
Do you think Australian wrestling could get to like a level of an AEW or a WWE?
I think it could, but there's a lot of things that I think will have to happen in order for that to happen, and that's very unlikely. Well, one, and I know you've talked to other people about this, I think the first thing you need is TV.
Yeah.
You need a TV deal of some sort on a network that's at least seen by more people than would actually attend the show itself.
Yeah.
And I also think you would need an ideal world where all of the best talents could get together and put on a regular show. But in saying that, there are some companies that I believe could run a televised product right now, and it would probably do quite well if they drew the audience in, which I think is possible. But I think a PWA or an MCW could probably do that just based off what I've seen from them so far.
I think if PWA and MCW combined, that could probably happen.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think you'd probably look at getting to make something like a national thing. You would have to, I would say you would have to take like companies like PWA, MCW, EPW, RCW, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
literally the top promotions in every state and amalgamate them into one company. And I think
Similar to
that,
like what Oceania just did with on the back of the Impact Tour. Like,
yeah,
they had that showcase. If they had like a roster kind of like that and they ran regularly, and you got someone with a bunch of money that can, that's willing to take that risk, I think it could work. I think we definitely have the talent down here to make it work. It's just all the other factors which I think make it difficult.
but do you like, I think there's not one particular like person that would blow up the thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think there's someone like a
No,
John Cena or
no.
that level of a performer that I've seen. And I think as a collective, yes. But is there going to be one that person that's going to be like The Rock and have that sort of drawing power or this? And I'm throwing out like the biggest names in the industry, right? So, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
using that as an example.
But
Like,
to be fair, Piers,
am I wrong there?
no, I don't think you're wrong. And to be fair, Piers, like if you look at the wrestling landscape, like even WWE, AEW, I don't know if there's anyone like Cena or The Rock anymore. I think
Right.
it's generally like you've got stars, you've got superstars, but for the most part, it seems to be the brands that draw the people in now. Like WWE is coming to town, AEW is coming to town. You
Uh-huh.
know, I think that's what draws more than anything, and you get to see wrestler A, B, C, D, etc. And some
Okay.
people will go for specific people, but I'm not sure we still have draws to the level of The Rock or Cena.
Let me ask you this: can you name 5 wrestlers from the Attitude Era?
Easy. Undertaker, Kane, Stone Cold, Rock, Mankind.
Okay, that's 5. Okay. In 20 years' time, do you think you're going to be able to say you can tell, like, give me 5 names of the current roster or the current landscape? Because I feel like I asked this question to Rob. I said, who in 20 years' time is going to be memorable in from the international landscape of professional wrestling? Like, who is going to be, who did he thought as a standout? And he was like, I don't know. And that's where I was sitting there asking the same thing. Like, I think now you're probably at that level with Reigns and maybe
Yeah.
MJF. I think those two are probably the 2 hottest talents in the world right now, like bar none. And I think those 2 definitely, probably most likely, but it's like it's taken a long time to get there for Roman Reigns specifically.
You could throw Brock in there for sure.
Yeah, Brock. But even then, he's been around a lot longer.
Yeah.
So, and I feel Brock is kind of one of those like those wild cards because he's so unique.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see because like I still watch and keep up to date with what's going on. Like I don't really have the time to watch a whole 3 hours of Raw, but like I had a day off today, so I watched AEW and I'll watch Collision and I'll just look at highlights and bits and pieces of what I want to watch. So I'll still keep in touch with it. And I do think, in 5 years' time, I'll be able to name people. But if you ask the general public, I don't know. Because when I
Yeah,
talk to people about wrestling, it's always like, I used to love watching The Undertaker or Batista or Rey Mysterio or The Rock or Hulk
yeah,
Hogan or Andre if they're, older. So, yeah.
yeah. I mean, I agree with you, man. But I think as well, like wrestling is still something that gets people to go out and watch. Like, it still draws people in, and it still gets people's attention, even though kayfabe was broken 30 years ago. All that sort of stuff. It's still, people still can go there and disconnect from it. And that's what the good thing about wrestling is. When it can get there and can get the audience invested, it can give that disconnect. It can make them forget about, the bullshit that they've gone on in their lives for an hour or 2 hours. Then, yeah, man, like it can be wrestling is a beautiful thing, bro.
Yeah. absolutely. And I think it's not too different from a movie or like a football game or something. You know, you go out, you watch something, whether it's because you want to have a good time with your mates, whether it's because you're bored and got nothing else to do, or you're just so invested in whatever it is you're buying a ticket for, you know, in this case, a wrestling show. And for some people, you're right, it is like an escape, you know, that some people probably do stay in their houses for, you know, 5 days out of the week because they're battling depression or all kinds of different mental health issues, and they get their one night out a week to go to the wrestling and have a good time, and that's their escape, and that's awesome that we can provide that platform for people.
Yeah, and I think as well, like there's so many different like styles of wrestling. So I feel like it's, you know, the ice cream flavor. Yeah, I mean, no
Yeah.
pun intended, Mister
No,
J.
no.
But yeah, I mean, it's the ice cream flavors. It's like you might not like chocolate, but you like vanilla, or you might like the strawberry or the rum raisin or whatever. But you know, you've been in the industry for 8 years now, and you know, the wrestling industry, bro, like, let's be real, right? Like, there can be a lot of shit that happens in the wrestling world. There's a lot of toxic bullshit that goes on in the wrestling world. For someone like yourself, man, like you're a very clean cut guy. You're very you can tell that you've had you know, a good upbringing. You've been raised the right way. What were some of the things that you found most shocking, best way to put it, that you found once you sort of got into the business? Or is there
Um,
anything that you still see that you think is pretty shocking?
I guess like it's gonna sound weird, but some places that you go to, it seems like you're rocking up to high school in some ways.
Mm.
Like there are some places, and there's still like a, you know, there's gossip, there's stuff that gets spread, and look, for me, like I just try and lay back, and you know, if people want to come chat to me, I'll have a chat. I'll, you know,
Yeah.
make the odd joke or something with people, but I'm generally pretty quiet. Um, and that's not really like it's not always like by choice. It's just, you know, I don't have anything to say, so you know, I'm
Yeah.
not just going to go and shoot my mouth off for no reason. Like, what's the point, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think like just generally in wrestling, like for me, like safety is the biggest thing. I cringe when I see like reckless stuff. Like I saw a clip the other day, and someone got really badly hurt. I'm not going to mention names because I don't want to sit here and bury anyone. But like
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the same thing. Yeah.
I saw it, I'm like, come on, guys. Like maybe this guy's done this move a whole bunch of times and it's worked out fine. I've only seen this one clip, so that's all I can go off. And in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, if you're not sure if you can do a move correctly, do something else.
Mm.
You know. And look, it goes both ways. You know, it's on the person for doing the move and the guy for taking it. You know, or for saying, you know, I trust it, because you got to trust each other out there. And there are
100%.
accidents that happen too. So it
Yeah.
could have just been a freak accident.
Yeah. Look, you know, I've actually, you know, I've had people wanting to come on and talk about this with me, and I've kind of like, from my standpoint of it, like I saw the clip and I was like, dude, that's pretty rough. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not a train. Look, bro, I'm not gonna sit there and pretend that I know how to wrestle or anything like that. I've never done it. I've never taken a bump. So, you know, for me watching that, and look, and this is probably the only thing I'll say on the matter, because out of respect for the injured party, I'd like to sort of, you know, see them, you know, get their prognosis and their sort of stuff. And I think that the wrestling community needs to band together around
Yeah.
this person right now. But yeah, to me, it just it didn't look right from the start.
Yeah.
But again, that's an uneducated opinion. That's someone who isn't trained making that statement. So I could be completely off. And like I said, I don't want to say anything further out of respect for the injured
No.
party. But, you know,
Yeah. And like, just from me, like from a coaching standpoint, like I'm not going to sit here and say don't ever book this person ever again because he did this to this person. I was like, what I would say is, if you want to do that move, find a good school that's going to teach you how to do it properly. Get a whole bunch of reps in of that move, and then when it's safe to do it, go ahead.
Yeah.
There might be some people, based on, if they've seen this incident, that are hesitant to take it, and fair enough. But if you can find someone who's willing to take it and you've worked on it and can do it safely and turns out to be your finish or whatever, then great. I don't think it's a good idea to, completely blackball people for things like that when it could just be an accident. I think it's just a matter of get more practice. Like I've thought of doing some stuff that I'm like, oh, maybe this won't turn out to like all right, so I won't do it.
Do you think that like it's the company, the performer? Like, would you like? And do you put it down to, do you think there's feds out there that are unsafe? Do you think there's certain companies out there that don't have the best interest for a performer or for the performers on the show? Their safety isn't the best interest for the promoter.
I think it depends sometimes on the promoter. If the promoter's not a worker and he's just booking talent that he thinks will be good for his show, you can't really expect the promoter to be correcting these guys on form and stuff. They might, and fine, it's his show.
Yeah.
I think it's more just on the workers to go and get proper training. Like something that Hunter would always drill into us and like PWA2 is safety. Like I remember when I was training at Rock and Roll, we would drill the same techniques, and like there was a system in place where you would have to make sure that you could do all these moves like time after time after time after time. And then once you get through your drills, you help the next person get through. You're then bumping for them and so on and so on. And it's like a system. It's a system of giving and taking,
Yeah.
I might have given, 50 scoop slams in a row until I could do that safely. And then the next person's coming through, they're up to learning scoop slam. And then I got to take 50 off them, and then so on. That's how I believe you get things safe and looking nice, is you practice,
100%. Like you can't just go out there and hit moves that you've never done before on someone on a show and expect it to be the best. And but that's the thing as well. Like it comes down to people being able to, I think, understanding what their skill level is at is a big thing as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like it's understanding what you're safe with and what you're not safe with. Like, bro, I've been on shows managing Nathan, and I've had promoters say, "Hey, we want you to do this," and I'm like, "No, I'm not doing that. Sorry, like, no, I don't. I'm not trained to do that. I don't want to. Why am I going to put my safety at risk or someone else's safety at risk?" And you know what I mean? No, like, but again, I'm a little bit older than most people in the scene, so I can say that, you know what I mean? And I don't really care if there's a problem because I'm not going to hurt myself or anyone doing this.
Yeah. And I think, Piers, honestly, like in wrestling and in life in general, being able to say no is just as important as being able to say yes. Like I've worked with some people and I've said, like I want to do this and this and this. And, people have said to me, oh, that's too much. I won't be able to remember that. Or I don't know this move. It's like, fine, we can change it. Not every match has to be the same, and no two matches should be the same. You do, it's working together. Some guy might not be able to take a 450 off the top or take a scoop slam or whatever. So you got to adjust, and that's part of wrestling. And I think it's a bit immature to get worked up about it. Like, oh, this guy wouldn't take my move because he hadn't learned it. Like, oh, what a crap worker. Like, no, like people are at different levels, and you got to work with the person that you're working with.
Have you ever been put in a situation where you've been asked to do something that you weren't comfortable with doing? Whether it be like in a match or in training?
Yeah, both. Like, a couple of weeks ago, someone, asked, "Oh, can I give you this move?" And I said, "Look, I've never taken one before. I don't really want to take it for the first time on the show when I think there's a 50% chance that I might screw it up."
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen the move before. I know what it is, but just like the mechanics of it, I couldn't 100% like convince myself that I'm going to land safely. It wasn't
What,
even necessarily that I thought the guy was going to. Sorry?
I was just to say, can you tell me what the move was, or would that be giving away who the person is?
No, not really. Like it was like the Pentagon like made in Japan move. I don't know if you've seen it. Basically, like they hook them for like a pump handle and like you're up and then you tuck last minute and like I hadn't done it with the guy before and we just changed it and did something else and it was fine.
Yeah. I
So
mean,
like
because
yeah, it's not.
I don't think it's like dire that the match has to end with that move or has to have that move in it. Like the fans don't
No.
know.
And if it's someone's finish, like I will try and compromise a bit unless I know it's absolutely like not safe, I'm not doing it. And in this
Yeah.
case, like it wasn't that. It was just more like I think we can do something else that I'm going to make look better than that move.
Yeah, that's fair
So,
enough. And that's the thing as well. It's about making things look good,
yeah.
just taking it and having it look like shit.
But he'll probably
Bad.
go and work with someone else that can make that move look awesome and great.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So
Yeah, because they're more comfortable with it, man, and that's kind of good for you for at least sticking to your guns and staying strong on that, because I think that's when it comes down to it, man. Like it's your safety. You're the one who has to be able to walk out of there and go home to your girlfriend, your family, and all that sort of stuff. So you have to be thinking about your safety at all times.
yeah, and like I have taken some silly bumps too that like in my mind I was like, oh, that looks really safe, but then for whatever reason, and most of the time like it's not even on, like it's just for some other reason. Like I was in a tables match with Rob and Brett Brady, right?
Yeah.
They put me down as safely as they could, but I held my arm out when I was going through the table and whacked my arm on the guardrail on the way down. Like that was on me because I just bumped wrong. They
Yeah.
did everything they could to make it as safe as possible. But yeah, sometimes it's on me too to be able to take the move. So
How bad did you bust your arm open? Was it bad, injured, broken?
I've still got 2 bubbles in my elbows, but I'm still working. So
How long ago was this?
like a couple years. But it was
Yeah,
one of
wow.
the funnest matches I've ever had. I love that match.
Bro, like 8 years in, how does the body feel in general?
I usually say to people like it's okay until I stop. Like I remember COVID particularly sucking because like you do shows week to week and your body gets kind of used to it in a sense. But then when
Yeah.
you have a long period of time off and you take that first bump back, you feel it like a lot
Yeah.
because your body's just like desensitized to some of the bumps in a way.
How long
But
did it take you to get back into it after COVID?
like a couple weeks, like once you get back into the groove, maybe like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah. And like what's the like plan for you in the future though? Because I know you went over to the US, you did some stuff with Chikara a couple years back in the Young Lions Cup. Is the plan for you to go back over to the States?
I would love to. I'm not as free as I used to be just because I've got other commitments now. But like my main goal, I guess, this year would just be trying to get some interstate bookings because I've never worked outside of New South Wales other than my America trip.
Oh
So I'd
wow.
love to wrestle in, Queensland, Melbourne, Canberra, wherever.
Has there been any interest yet?
Not so much. I've hit up a few places and, like, sure, we'll keep it in mind kind of thing, but nothing set in stone just yet. So we'll see how I go. I've got a few connections just based on people I've worked and been on shows with. So yeah, I just find it is hard to get on some shows because a lot of shows already have like their crew of guys. So like
Yeah.
I don't take it personally, I understand, people are probably going to use their trainees or like the people that have come through their academy before they use, outsiders. So
Yeah. Oh,
yeah, hopefully
exactly.
something will happen, man.
Well, that's an interesting thing. Like they use people from their academy, because one of the things I wanted to ask you, and I love the PWA product. I think they do a great job. Um, you've been training there a long time.
Yeah.
And I honestly think, and I said that earlier, that I honestly think you're one of the very best wrestlers in New South Wales, and I probably think you're one of the most underrated. Why aren't you on more PWA shows? Because I don't understand it. Like you train there, you are a good ambassador for the business. Have they given you feedback on, like, have you tried to seek out feedback on why you're not on Black Label shows? Because, like, bro, it's been something that I've scratched my head at for the last couple of years, to be honest.
Yeah. Honestly, I don't necessarily think it's like a talent thing. Like, I don't think it's because I'm not good enough. I think more often than not, it's probably because I don't pitch as many ideas as other people do.
Yeah.
Not that I haven't pitched ideas, I have, but I don't think I'm pitching ideas as much as other people have. And I don't know. I think there might have been for a while like a bit of a gimmick clash with Fudge and myself. Like, because I've heard people say, I'll just throw them together and make a tag team. But if the booker doesn't want to make a tag team, then, like, going back to what I was saying before, you're going to use the homegrown guy and the character that was made there before you use an outside character. And I think there was a clash between Fudge and myself. And there's no beef there at all. Like, we get along great. But I just think from a booking perspective, it's like, why would we use this guy's gimmick when we've already got something similar that's already over and established with this audience?
Did it ever make you question and think, oh, I should change the gimmick? I should do something different? Was that a thought, or were you like, no, this is where I'm gonna die on this hill for Jay Sorbet?
I've thought about it and I still think about it to this day. I just don't feel like I've got something that I'm fully like, yes, this is the one. I've had ones where I'm like, this is a good idea. And whether it's been shot down by someone, whether that be from PWA or elsewhere for whatever reason, and I've like, yeah, you're probably right. Maybe I'll think of something else. It just, like, a lot of it comes down to like creative stuff with me.
Yeah.
And I do believe I have the creativity to do stuff. But I think there is a bit of, for me, just there is like this comfortability in doing what I do. So like it can be quite scary to like completely reinvent yourself, and it can be done.
Yeah.
And I believe I could do it. I've always just wanted a reason. Like, for me in wrestling, I like to know the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Like, sure, there's the like the non-kayfabe reason of like, well, I need to change characters so that I can fit whatever product I want to wrestle in. But then there's also the kayfabe reason of like, why is this guy suddenly something else? And I know people have done it, but to me, I'm just like, I try and tie up the loose ends. And look, maybe to my detriment, maybe I try and tie up the loose ends too much to the point where I need to just say like, stuff it and just try something else. But like, I have done other like masked gimmicks and stuff that like on various shows to change things up a little bit. So I'm not opposed to doing that. But yeah, I would like something that's a bit more set in stone. But in saying that, like, I go and work some other places and like my character really connects with that audience. So it's like, do I just do this one gimmick in this other place and then keep this one everywhere else? Or do I change everything everywhere? I think that's kind of more of the battle for me.
Yeah. And look, that's fair enough, man. Yeah, and because you are working so many places, like I feel like changing a gimmick up, do you think that could affect bookings if you did change the gimmick up, like, let's say, drastically?
Potentially, sure, potentially, because some people some people get bookings because they have their spot on the card and that's their spot, you know?
Yeah.
Like, say, for example, I am the high flyer on the roster. Like, there's one or two high flyers. All of a sudden, I'm like, okay, I don't want to be a high flyer anymore. I want to be a power wrestler or a technical wrestler. Well, we've already got 3 or 4 technical wrestlers on the roster. So your value to said company is no longer as high as it used to be, unless you are drastically better than all those other people.
Yeah. And that's probably the hardest thing. You probably you've hit the nail on the coffin there. Like hit the nail on the head on the coffin. You know what I'm saying? But
I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. It's been a long day. But I feel like you definitely have hit the nail on the head there. And that's the thing is like there's only so many spots on the show. Like most shows have what, 8 matches? 7? Like let's say 8. Eight's the average, right?
Rock and roll usually run 5, and they don't usually shy away from that.
That's
3
pretty cool.
matches, intermission, 2 matches, home.
That's
some
good.
cards run 8, some cards run 10, or you have some massive cards that run like 12 matches. But
dude, you want to hear something crazy? I did a Muay Thai show about a month ago. Do you know how many matches are on the card?
3?
21.
21.
There was I commentated 21 fights that night. Like
You know,
literally,
funny,
it was like 11:30 p.m. and we had like 7 fights to go. I was like, "Fuck,
right.
I was like, "Fuck, this is a long day. This is a long day in the office."
I heard ROH did that not too long ago. Actually, they did an ROH taping, and I think there was like 21 matches or something, and like a whole bunch of them were like enhancement matches.
Yeah. Well, if they're quick matches, that's one thing. Like this fight card, like honestly, the fights were actually like banger fights. So it was like 21 fights, but it was like, oh my God, this is fucking amazing. But at the end of it, my voice was blown out. But do you think that like for a wrestling show, like, do you think that they could run like 12 to 13 matches? If they like, do you think that could be a thing, or do you think that burns the audience out?
I think you need to know your audience. I think, you know, RSL kind of crowds, families, kids, 5 to, I'd say 7 max, absolute max, probably 7 or 8. I wouldn't go any more than that. Like hardcore wrestling fans, like a PWA, MCW kind of audience, you probably could get away with running 12 matches, but you'd have to have the right card and the right people. And you'd have to be able to keep it interesting. Like I'm thinking like a, you know, like a cross promotion kind of show. Or like a one night tournament where you've got other stories underneath that are strong stories. You have to have the right card. I don't think putting 12 cold matches on a card is going to keep the audience.
You know what, man? It does in the fight game. Hey, like this crowd, like the crowd, I was like the fight cards and stuff that I work on, man. Like you see, like the smallest card will have like 12 fights. That'll be like the smallest card will be a 12 fight card. But like, yeah, like, and the crowd's into it. So I don't know, like if a wrestling audience and a combat sports audience, are they all that different though? Well, I suppose they are to a certain extent, but
they are in a sense. But I think a big difference, Pierce, is when it comes to wrestling, when you get, I'd say even like 5, 6 matches in, there's a lot of, and this is just from experiencing matches on shows I've been on, there's a lot of crossover. Like as far as moves and the way that matches are laid out. Fights are always unpredictable because they're shoot.
Yeah.
Whereas wrestling, you know, okay, across a 12-match card, let's say maybe at least 5 of those matches are going to have some variation of an international in them. You're probably going to see, 10 body slams across that show. So I guess it depends, like how much can these matches differentiate from each other? If you're going to put out the same type of match, then it's going to burn the crowd very quick because they're like, well, we just saw this. So I think that's the difference between fighting or UFC versus wrestling.
Yeah, no, I can definitely see that as well. And because the most part is like, even with some shows, like like I've seen this on a few different shows, is where I'll see performers like, and I've seen this on a few different cards where like I'll see the same move in like 3 matches, and it's
Yeah.
like, do you feel like that's probably one thing missing? And I think from like an independent wrestling level, like more people need to be watching what's on the show when as the show's happening.
Yes, but like also there's not always a chance, not everything is
Yeah,
streamed
true.
or the boys can't always see what's going on without being seen by the audience of like, oh look, there's some guy's head peeking through the curtain.
Yeah.
But no, I think like when I went to Shikara, they had a like note on the wall saying these are the spots. If you want to claim these spots, say it's an outside dive, you have to put your name next to it. Only 2 matches on the card can have
Yeah.
this spot, and they can't be back to back. And once they're gone, you can't do that. Like no other.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's like, okay, ref bump. Okay, we're going to have one ref bump in the whole show. Okay, match 3, you've taken it. Main event wants it. Okay, probably going to have to give it to the main event because it's the main event.
Yep.
Unless there's a reason for doing it in match 3 that, is for that story. But yeah, they had a board with like stuff and certain moves and things. And AEW just released something, I think, as well, with like a whole list of different stuff that they want either limited or banned from their product altogether because there's too much crossover. And I think it's a good thing to do because that's one thing I try to do is I try and make my match on the show different from everyone else's. Whether
Yeah.
it's the most exciting or not, that's up to the audience. But I try and make it different. If I've seen, in fact, I think it was not too long ago. I've seen like, oh, match 1 and 2 have done this spot. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
So I think it's definitely a good idea to watch the show if you can. But I also like the idea of having backstage a board of like key spots that should only happen once or twice in a show, and writing your name next to them, being like, okay, we're taking this, and being respectful enough to not be a hog and take all of them for yourself.
Yeah. No, 100%. I think that's a pretty cool idea to do though. Like that actually is really good because how quick did that board in Chikara fill up though?
Pretty quickly, but like there's a lot of communication that goes into it as well. Like Mike would also have ideas for matches like prior to. He's like, okay, they're going to be doing this spot because this is what I have in mind for them.
Sure.
So like sometimes he would assign certain spots as well because he knew like kind of what he wanted out of some of the, higher story arc kind of matches. But when it came to dives and stuff, I think that's just wrestling in general. You see so many over the top dives, so much blood and stuff now compared to what I feel I used to see, that you become numb to it. So I think it's a great idea.
100%, man. Yeah, and on the topic of Chikara, how did you find your time when you were over there?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Was training just about every day. I think it was 4 or 5 days a week we were training. And then I was working out pretty much every other day. Had Ricky over there for a little bit, so it was good to to have him there too. We could kind of hang out together as a familiar face, and all those crew over there were lovely.
Yeah.
Mike's always been awesome to me, and the folks at PWA, he's come down for I think 2 big, what we call Quack Week, where he just teaches for a whole week throughout the day and the evening, and you just kind of make whatever sessions you can make. And like I remember I'd take like days off work because I was like, I want to learn from this guy.
Wow.
But yeah, like I'd give up pay to go and learn because it was important to me, and I was like, I trust what this guy's teaching, and like that's in my mind, that's how I feel like I got to the level I'm at now, is because I would sacrifice other things in order to make time for wrestling.
Were you shocked when you heard the stuff come out about Quack and Chikara?
I was, yeah, I was, but like I also didn't. there was so much going on in Twitter around that time. I got to a point, and I'm not gonna like I'll be honest with you, I didn't see all the details. Like I read through it, and I can't remember every little detail at this time, but I remember get like the rough idea of what happened. But there's so much going on. It got to a point where I was just like, this is too much negativity. I don't want to be around it. So I just
Yeah.
kind of logged off, and like I shot him a message and just said like, hey, how you doing with everything? I kind of heard what happened, and like he said, he's doing it a bit tough and everything. And look, as far as the whole like cancel culture and stuff, I agree. Like some people have done some stuff that they probably shouldn't be allowed to look back into wrestling for, but then I think there are some others, and I think there's some others that's like maybe this person deserves a second chance and just see how we go. But that's up to the people who, that's up to the people. One
Yeah.
person doesn't always make that decision.
But look, I feel like for the most part, if someone's done something criminal, then they need to be charged to the full extent of the law of the country that they're in, regardless. If someone has done something that's unsavory, that's not illegal, but it's unsavory, then well, it's one of those things. It's like you decide who you want to be around. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Like,
situational, and you got to take each case as its own. I don't agree to handing out the same penalty to, someone who said one wrong thing when they were 18 or 19 versus someone who's gone and committed murder,
Well, that's 100% right, man. And it comes down to it's like, when someone's doing something good and you see someone successful and then someone pulls out what they said back in 2007 on them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the society, how it is now, where it's like, bro, dude, fuck, I'm 41, man. I lived through the 90s, bro. And the early 2000s. Like, dude, the shit that people were saying back then, and we were talking about this early, man. I've said some fucking horrible shit in my past, bro. That's, I'll admit to that. You know what I mean? But I was young, I was ignorant, I was stupid. Should I be, I shouldn't be canceled for it. And it's the same thing today. And I've always said, if someone who is in their early 20s or there's a young person, they say something stupid, they say something inappropriate, instead of like ostracizing them, let's pull them in with this arm and go, hey, listen, come over here. Let me have a chat to you. Let me educate you on something. You can't talk like that. And this is why. Instead, it's not, get away. We don't want to know you. That person isn't necessarily a bad person, Jay.
Yeah.
They're just a person who's made a mistake. They've opened their mouth. They've said something without thinking. And that's something every single person in this planet is guilty of at one stage of their life or not.
Yeah. And look, I've said some stuff that, people have pulled me up on. It's like, you can't say this for this reason. And I'm like, okay, sure. Sorry. And moved on. And no one will know what those things are because like they were dealt with. And
yeah.
I've changed. I've grown out of that mentality or whatever. Like, yeah.
I mean,
that is how it should be dealt with, unless it is a criminal case, in which case it's a crime and it should be. Sorry, I'm just chucking my computer on charge so it doesn't die mid-interview. And that should be dealt with by the police, and action should be taken by, workplaces, businesses, whoever that person has ties to.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing, like I said, shit people are just shit people and shouldn't be around. You know what I mean? But that's the thing. They shouldn't be around people that don't want to be around them. But then again, like if people want to, but it's up to, I think, the individuals around if they want to be around someone or not. Like there's people that I've met over my lifetime that I don't wish to be around with. And I'm sure there's people you've met in your lifetime, Jay, that you don't really care too much to spend time with. And that's okay. We all have different levels and morals and all that sort of stuff.
But I'll quickly touch on something as respectfully as I can, I guess, that I've seen in wrestling is like this whole idea of like, I don't want anything to do with that person. So anyone who has anything to do with me can't have anything to do with that person either.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan of that mindset. And I'm not going to go into details, but I think each worker should be able to make their own choices as far as who to work for. And I think if you're a promoter and you got a problem with someone, you don't want to book them, fine, 100%. It's your business, your promotion. And like, really, yeah, you can make those decisions if you choose to. But I think as a promoter, if you're choosing to not book people because they're on a show with someone else, and not even like, let's get this straight. Like, these workers who are on this show with this other person, they don't choose who gets booked. They're just getting an opportunity for themselves. I think that type of mindset is bad for the business.
And you know what, man? Like, I would never go out and say, if I had a beef with someone, if I had a beef with a promotion or a worker or whatever, like, and I said, well, Jay, you're my friend. So why would you go work on with that person? Why would you go work for that show? No, I wouldn't, bro, because that's not my business. My business is that, and my problem is not your problem.
That's right. I think we each got to deal with our own problems, whether that's with someone else or whatever else is going on. We all got to deal with it in our own way and do our best to not let it affect outside parties who have nothing to really do with the issue.
Exactly. And that's the thing, making wrestlers shoot. Like, bro, I'll say this. We talked about it earlier and we joked around. It's like, is there too many promotions and all this sort of stuff in New South Wales? Honestly, I'm going to say this. No. Because, and put it this way, there is not enough shows that people can wrestle on consistently. Look at the amount of performers we have in New South Wales alone.
Yeah.
In New South Wales alone compared to the shows. Mate, there is a bunch of wrestlers on a monthly basis not getting booked. And like we said, we you know, if a show can run safely, and I'm all for you as well. Like, there is, you know, if I was at a show and I thought the show was being like the performers were unsafe or there was an unsafe environment, I probably would say something. I'd say, no, I don't think this is right, because I don't want to see someone get hurt. I don't want to see an injury like that happen. I don't want to see someone be affected for life.
Yeah.
Over a wrestling match. And if it takes me saying something, then yeah, I'll fucking stand up and say something, because it needs to be said sometimes. But in the same sense, going back to the point we were talking about, we can't just, you say, oh, you can't wrestle for that promotion. You can't wrestle because there's not enough shows for people already. Let people go and get better. Let them be consistently. And we talked about it before, like, not many about it being a business and being fun. There's no one's making big money in wrestling here in Australia. There's no one making big money here. So it is fun. So let people go out and have fucking fun. Like, this drama, this nonsense, it needs to stop.
Yeah, I agree. And look, I think like to brighten the mood a bit, there are some wrestlers who should be working so many more places that don't get those opportunities. Like, great workers, like I'm talking about, like Moses and Otis. Like, I think those two guys, great workers, should be working so many more places than they are. Even Rob, like he can still go as good as anyone, I think. And like I said earlier, there's various reasons to why those people don't get booked, and it's not always their fault. A lot of the time it's due to places having their own people that they book for whatever reason, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But like, there's some great wrestlers that I feel like should be doing more. And like I said, I don't entirely blame them for it. I think it's just how it is. And maybe you're right. Maybe if we did have more quality promotions where those guys could work, they would get seen. They'd make more money because they'd be working more. But yeah, that's not the case at the moment.
Unfortunately not, man. But the thing is, like, there's so many good talent that should be, showcased and should be given opportunities. But there's only so many opportunities. There's only so many spots on shows. You know what I mean? Like, and I was actually thinking about this because, like, I've had a couple of people come to me and say, hey, we will financially back you if you want to put on a show, and we will, whatever it costs, we will financially back it. And I went, nah, I'm good. Nah. Dude, like I know a lot of people in the Australian scene. It's like, dude, I would lose friends if I put on a show, because it's like, I understand I can't book every single person I'm cool with.
look, as someone who's had a run for a couple of months just doing like booking rookie shows along with a couple of the other guys for rock and roll, like it's hard. Like obviously you got like Hunter's at the top, right? Like he's the one that does the bookings, and at the end of the day it all goes through him. But we were kind of, a couple of us were kind of, having a go and booking some cards, and it's hard, man. Like you got to leave off some people that you love to bits just because, like, you got to get this person on the show, you got to get this person on the show. Well, especially in rock and roll, we're running 5 matches a show. Unless we're going to run 5 rumbles in a row, like I'm probably not going to be able to get everyone in the business that I like on the show, and even then,
100%. But it's even for that sense, but also I couldn't
hard,
go into it. I wouldn't, not even the booking side of things, just nah. I don't think I could do it. I think Rob would be a good booker. I think he would do really, really well as a booker, but he's the same as me. He's like, nah. he's not interested.
I think you got to have this aspect of, like, you look at it from a business standpoint and not from a friendship standpoint to be like a successful promoter. Like I honestly think that's how you succeed.
But there's a lot of nepotism.
That was the hard thing for me. I couldn't do that.
But there's a lot of nepotism in wrestling.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. You know what I mean? Like you see people in books and like, why is that person on the show? Oh, he's friend. Okay. You know what I mean? Like that. There's a lot of that in wrestling.
Yeah, for sure.
There's a lot of that in wrestling. And but you know what? I get it, because it comes down to, it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's business as well to a lot of extent.
Yeah, I think a lot of wrestling, whether it's from a fan's perspective or a business perspective, promoter, worker, it's all a matter of preference. Because wrestling is such a subjective thing, Preference in regards to match genre, preference in regards to who gets booked, who doesn't get booked, preference in regards to, what type of company they want to run, what's a 5-star match, what's a 3-star match. Like, I think that's why wrestling's so tricky and there's so much debate about it, is because there's no this is right and this is wrong. There's I think this is right, I think this is wrong, but there's no like one person in wrestling that's telling everyone and everyone's like, yes, we agree with you, sir. It's like, no, we're all people and we all have our own opinions.
Yeah, it's exactly right, and that's where it is. It's so subjective that it's hard to sort of break that away, because like what's not entertaining to you might be extremely entertaining to me.
Yeah, and I think like an aspect you got to have as a worker is also being able to adjust as well. If you do want to work multiple places, you got to be like, well, what this person's putting on is maybe not my personal preference of wrestling, but what can I do to help this show? And I'm not going to go and kick up a stink about it, because at the end of the day, I need to be grateful that I've got a spot here. And what can I add to this show? I can't just sit there and be like, well, everything in this promotion doesn't add up for me, so I need to find something that's 10 out of 10. It's like, no, but find somewhere that you're happy working. And if you don't like everything, that's fine. Like, I'm sure there's loads of people that probably don't think I'm a perfect worker, and nor do I, to be honest. But like,
no,
you're always going to be able to pick holes.
Exactly, and but that's the thing. I feel like that's any world of entertainment, anything that when you put yourself in the public eye, there's always going to be detractors. There's always going to be people that are going to go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, not. But then there's going to be people that love everything that you do, that watch and buy merch and think you're the greatest performer in the world. And that's the beauty of wrestling, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like there's everyone's got a difference of opinion. Everyone has something that they like and something that they might not like. And that's cool.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I think, like you said, it's all just a matter of preference, what people like. What's your flavor?
Tell me what's your flavor. There you go. See what I did there? There we go. We're almost in unison there. But man, we've just like passed over the hour and almost like 15-minute mark here, bro. And man, like this has been a great conversation, dude. I feel like we need to get you back on like with Zuko, or maybe like Vinny Vane or something like that, we have like a group chat. We're going to be starting doing more of those. So I definitely want to get you involved in that. But man, before we sort of wrap it up and start sending it home, where can everyone find you on social media? Have you got a place where you're selling merch where people can sort of grab some of that as well?
Well, I believe Wrestler Merch Store unfortunately had to close down.
Yeah, that's
so I don't think that's an option at the moment. But basically, any of the local shows that I'm on, I've always got my 8x10s. I got some fancy new poses that I was playing around with that I got put on some 8x10s now, and I got new that's the Thor base shirts with me holding a Thor hammer dressed as Thor.
what a mark. No, I'm kidding.
I think that's all I got set up at the moment as far as merch wise. I think everything else pretty much sold out this past weekend. I had like 2 J-Time and Superman ones left, and they went. So just the Thor Bay ones now. And
you didn't have 2 left. You had like 200 left, man. I saw you at that show, bro. I saw photos from Rock and Roll, man. Like you were just selling shirts like crazy.
I wish, bro. I wish.
Hey, man.
Yeah. As far as social media, just I do have a Twitter and an Instagram, and you're welcome to follow me on there. It's DJ Sorbet on Instagram, and it's the Sorbet on Twitter. And then, but I'm mostly active on Facebook, which you just search my name, Jay Sorbet, and should pop up. Look for the ice cream guy in the Sub-Zero outfit.
Hey, that's it, man. Look, I appreciate your time, Jay. As always, brother, it is so good to talk to you, man. And definitely going to do it again very, very soon. Not leave it for 2 years like we did last time.
Yeah.
But guys, this has been the greatest podcast in the world, Shooting the Shit Uncensored. I am the truth, Piers Austin. Until next time, we'll see you again very soon. Take care. All the best. Peace.